What if the turning point of your life happened in silence, when you believed no one was paying attention? Picture this. A young woman bends down beside a crying child in the middle of a bustling shopping mall. She slips her only decent cardigan around the girl's trembling shoulders and hums a lullaby she doesn't even realize she remembers, one buried in the fragments of her past. She has no idea that security cameras are recording every second, or that a man nearby has gone still, staring in disbelief, because the song on her lips is one only his late wife used to sing. What happens if he steps closer? Does he accuse her of stealing something sacred? Or does he recognize the impossible, that a stranger holds a piece of the past he thought he'd lost forever? Before I reveal the truth behind this extraordinary meeting, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because what follows will change the lives of 3 people forever. A shy receptionist with scars no one sees, a little girl aching for comfort, and a father who built an empire but forgot what it means to feel. Stay with me for the next half hour, and you'll understand why the quietest moments often carry the most courage. Why not every soul is saved by wealth? Sometimes all it takes is a hug and someone who truly listens. Elena Morgan had always been the type to fade into the background. At 26, she walked through the world softly, shoulders curved inward as if shielding herself from unseen storms. The grand shopping complex, where she worked as a receptionist, only highlighted her simplicity. Glittering storefronts and high-end boutiques towered around her desk like jeweled cages encircling a sparrow. Every morning she arrived 15 minutes early, setting up her little corner with practiced care, a potted plant thriving despite artificial light, a worn psychology textbook hidden in her drawer, and the cardigan she always kept nearby to ward off the mall's relentless air conditioning. Her apartment was much the same. Small but carefully tended. Sun-colored walls, handmade curtains, and smooth stones from Lake Michigan arranged neatly on a shelf. What few realized about Elena was her quiet gift. She could spot a hurting child from across a crowded room. Having grown up in foster care, she recognized the stillness of a little one trying to be brave, the lip that trembled when tears were being swallowed back. She never called this a talent. It was simply a part of who she was. Her childhood had been a string of temporary homes, some kind, others cold. The longest she ever stayed was 11 months with the Martins. Mrs. Martin, who tucked her in every night with a song warm as honey, left Elena with lullabies she carried in her heart long after cancer had taken her away. Morning. "Elena?" called Carl, the security guard who had watched over the mall longer than most of its shops had been open. At 65, his frame was still broad, a reminder of his firefighting years. He was one of the few who noticed Elena's small kindnesses, the extra tissues she kept, the way she remembered children's names. Each day he brought her tea, chamomile with honey, setting it gently on her desk without a word. "You're thoughtful today," he remarked, sliding the cup toward her. "Morning, Carl," she said with a small smile. Rain pattered against the glass doors. "Looks like a storm's rolling in." Carl's gaze shifted to the sky. "Storms make people careless. Watch the little ones today." He walked off, leaving her already scanning the entrance as parents hurried in, juggling umbrellas and restless kids. Across town, in a sleek penthouse high above the lake, Grayson Wolfe was already buried in his 3rd meeting of the morning. At 40, with sharp features often described by magazines as ruthlessly handsome, he had built Medicor Technologies into a billion-dollar company on sheer discipline and focus. His office, with its floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooked the storm-darkened water, a mirror for the turbulence he carried inside. 4 years earlier, those same waters had been the only thing to steady him when Catherine died, leaving him alone with an infant daughter. He often stood at the glass in those days, Lily cradled in his arms, staring into the endless horizon, wondering how the world kept turning without her. Thursday, not Friday, he told his team crisply, though his eyes had drifted toward the single photo on his desk. Catherine laughing in Santorini, her joy frozen in time. She had been gone for years now, and with her went all the warmth from his home. His colleagues' voices droned on through the conference call. But what pulled him back was the sound of Lily's laughter echoing through the penthouse, so much like her mother's it almost hurt. References. She understood Lily's medical needs, maintained a proper schedule, and always dressed both herself and his daughter impeccably. Yet something about her had always struck Grayson as slightly off. A coldness, perhaps, or an attention. That seemed more focused on the prestige of her position than on the child herself. But Grayson had neither the time nor emotional bandwidth to micromanage his daughter's care. As long as Lily was safe, well-fed, and properly educated, he told himself that was enough. It had to be enough. "Mr. Wolfe," his assistant interrupted, through the intercom. "Rightly called to remind you, she's taking Lily to the downtown shopping center today for her new dress fitting." Grayson rubbed his temples. "Right. Tell her to send me pictures." He hesitated, a faint memory surfacing of Catherine insisting they document every first in Lily's life, first smile, first steps, first dress fitting, and remind her to keep Lily's inhaler close. The weather report said rain and Lily's asthma. "I'll let her know, sir." He returned to the conference call, pushing down the impulse to cancel his meetings and accompany them himself. Medicor was in the final stages of developing a revolutionary treatment for postpartum complications, the very condition that had taken Catherine's life. The irony wasn't lost on him that in trying to prevent other fathers from experiencing his loss, he was missing his own daughter's childhood. As the morning wore on, the rain intensified, turning Chicago's skyline into a smudged watercolor. Neither Elena at her reception desk, nor Grayson in his tower, had any idea that by sunset their carefully constructed worlds would collide in ways neither could imagine. Pause for a moment and think about this. When was the last time as strangers kindness changed the course of your day? Share your experience in the comments below. I read them all and would love to know what small acts of compassion have touched your life. The afternoon rush had just begun when Elena first heard it. A small hiccuping sob nearly drowned out by the shopping scent's ambient music and the steady drum of rain against glass. She scanned the marble lobby, eyes finally landing on a tiny figure huddled beside a potted palm near the east corridor. A little girl no more than 4, with dark curls plastered to her face, sat alone on the cold floor. Her pink dress was splattered with raindrops, her small shoulders shaking with each silent sob. Around her, shoppers hurried past, some glancing momentarily at the child before continuing their day. A momentary registration of something out of place, quickly replaced by their own concerns. Elena's heart quickened. In the 3 years she'd worked at the reception desk, she'd encountered many lost children, each one bringing back memories of her own childhood fears, the sensation of being small and alone in a world built for adults, of feeling invisible despite desperately needing to be seen. She remembered one foster home where she'd been forgotten at a supermarket, sitting for nearly 2 hours by the customer service desk before anyone had noticed she was missing. She pressed the intercom button once. "Carl, I need to step away from the desk for a moment. Could you watch it briefly without waiting for his reply?" She was already moving, something fierce and protective awakening within her usually timid demeanor. The security protocol required her to call it in first to wait for an official security member to handle lost children, but something about the little girl's isolation propelled Elena forward. As she approached, she noticed details that tightened. Her concern, the child's labored breathing, the slight blue tinge to her lips that suggested this was more than just emotional distress. The little girl's expensive patent leather shoes were soaked through, her delicate tights muddied at the knees as if she'd fallen. Elena knelt before the child, making herself small and unthreatening. "Hi there," she said softly, crouching to eye level. "Are you lost?" The little girl looked up, revealing tear-streaked cheeks and eyes the color of rain-washed slate. Intelligent eyes that seemed older than her years, filled with a weariness that Elena recognized all too well. "I can't find Riley," she whispered, her voice catching. "She told me to stay by the plant and not move, but that was a long, long time ago. Is Riley your mom?" Elena asked gently, already taking note of the child's quickened breathing. The girl shook her head, dark curls bouncing. "She takes care of me for Daddy. She said she just needed to make a phone call." Her lower lip trembled. "I'm cold." A flash of anger surged through Elena, brief but intense. Who leaves a child this young, alone in a public space? She pushed the feeling aside, focusing instead on the immediate need without a second thought. Elena slipped off her cardigan and wrapped it around the small, shivering shoulders. The soft blue wool, a luxury she'd saved for months to afford, swallowed the child's tiny frame. "My name's Elena. What's yours?" "Lily," came the whispered reply, followed by a sniffle. Lily Wolfe. The name registered somewhere in Keena's mind, something from business magazines or news headlines, but her focus remained on the child. She remembered an article about Chicago's wealthiest families, a profile of an innovative medical technology company founded by someone named Wolfe. But those glossy magazine worlds seemed so far removed from this moment. This frightened child who, despite her expensive clothes, was just as vulnerable as any other. "Well, Lily Wolfe, you must be very brave sitting here all by yourself." Lily's eyes welled with fresh tears. "I tried to be brave because Daddy says wolf. Women don't cry." But her voice broke as another sob escaped. Something in those words pierced Elena's heart. How many times had she heard similar sentiments in her various foster homes? Be brave. Don't show weakness and don't be a burden. The expectations placed on children to mask their emotions for adult comfort. It was a cruelty that Elena had sworn never to perpetuate. She opened her arms, offering rather than assuming. "Would you like a hug while we wait for someone to find Riley?" For a moment, Lily hesitated, examining Elena's face as if searching for something. Then something seemed to break in her small composure. The child practically collapsed against her small arms, wrapping desperately around Elena's neck with such force that it momentarily stole her breath. The connection was instant and visceral, a recognition between two souls who understood what it meant to hold yourself together until someone safe enough came along. Lifting Lily gently, Elena carried her to a nearby bench, all while pressing the security button on her employee badge, a silent alert to Carl. The child's body was cold against hers, her expensive dress doing little to ward off the chill from having sat in the air-conditioned corridor while still damp from the rain. "You're all wet from the rain," Elena murmured, using tissues from her pocket to gently dry Lily's face. She methodically removed the child's sodden shoes and socks, rubbing her tiny feet between her hands to warm them. "Let's get you warmed up." As she worked, Elena noticed Lily's breathing had become increasingly labored, a faint wheeze accompanying each exhale. "I don't feel good," Lily whispered. One small hand moving to her chest, alarm flickered through Elena. Asthma, possibly triggered by cold, stress, or the dampness. "Do you have medicine you take for your breathing?" Lily nodded, her dark curls bobbing against Elena's shoulder. In Riley's purse, a flash of anger surged through Elena again, stronger. This time. Not only had this caretaker abandoned a young child, but she'd taken the child's emergency medication with her. The negligence was staggering. Elena tightened her hold protectively, adjusting Lily against her chest to ease her breathing. Almost without thinking, she began to rock slightly, the gentle, instinctive movement that humans have used to comfort children since the beginning of time. As she rocked, She started to hum, a melody that had comforted her in her darkest childhood moments. The soft, lilting tune gradually formed into words, a simple lullaby about raindrops and sunshine and safe harbors in storms. Elena had no memory of where she'd first heard it. Perhaps from Mrs. Martin. Or maybe she'd created it herself during those long nights in group homes when sleep eluded her. The lyrics spoke of courage in small packages, of finding warmth when the world seemed cold, of being seen when you felt invisible. As Elena sang, her normally quiet voice growing more confident with each note, Lily's breathing gradually eased. The child's rigid body softened against her, small fingers curling into the fabric of Elena's blouse as if anchoring herself. "That's pretty," Lily whispered when Elena finished the song. "My mommy isn't here anymore. Does your mommy sing to you?" The question, so innocent and direct as only a child's can be, caught Elena off guard. "I didn't have a mom for very long," she answered honestly. "But I had a nice lady who took care of me for a while, and she sang something like this." Lily lifted her head, studying Elena's face with that unnerving perception of the very young. "Did she go away too?" "Yes," Elena said simply. "But I still remember her songs." Lily nodded, accepting this with the straightforward logic of childhood. "I don't remember my mommy's songs. Daddy doesn't sing." As Elena held the child, she was unaware of the security cameras capturing every moment. Unaware that on the first floor of the shopping center, standing frozen before a coffee shop security monitor, Grayson Wolfe was watching his daughter in the arms of a stranger, hearing a lullaby he hadn't heard in 4 years. Grayson had come to the shopping center on impulse, canceling his last 2 meetings when something, intuition perhaps, or simple parental anxiety, had urged him to check on Lily's appointment. He'd intended to surprise them, maybe take his daughter, for ice cream afterward, a rare, spontaneous gesture in their rigidly scheduled lives. Instead, he found himself paralyzed before the security feed displayed on a monitor behind the coffee shop counter, an incidental glance that had stopped him mid-stride. There was his daughter, his Lily, wrapped in a stranger's cardigan, cradled in a stranger's arms, listening to a stranger sing Catherine's song. Catherine's song, the private lullaby his wife had created in the hospital the night Lily was born, whispering that the melody had come to her in a dream, a song that had died with her, that Grayson couldn't bring himself to sing in the 4 years since. In that moment, something cracked in the businessman's carefully constructed armor. For the first time since his wife's funeral, Grayson Wolfe felt tears burn at the back of his eyes as he watched a receptionist, a woman he'd walked past countless times without noticing, cradle his daughter with the tenderness he'd never managed. To summon, Carl arrived at Elena's side, medical kit in hand. Security called it in. The nanny's been located. She was at the juice bar on the 2nd floor, chatting away on her phone. Before Elena could respond, a sharp voice cut through the moment. "Lily, what are you doing? I told you not to move." A stylishly dressed woman in her late 20s approached rapidly, irritation rather than concern dominant in her expression. "You cannot just wander off like that." Elena felt Lily stiffen in her arms. "She didn't wander," Elena said quietly but firmly. "She was exactly where you left her, alone for over 15 minutes, according to our security footage." Riley's perfectly made-up face flushed. "Excuse me, who exactly are you to question me? Do you have any idea who this child's father is?" As if summoned by the question, a commanding voice spoke from behind them. "I believe I can answer that." Grayson Wolfe stood before them, his tailored suit slightly damp from the rain, his expression unreadable. His eyes, however, never left his daughter's face. "Daddy." Lily's voice was equal parts relief and apprehension. The shopping center seemed to freeze around them, sales associates whispering, customers staring at the famously private tech mogul, standing in their midst. Grayson Wolfe, whose face graced business magazines but who was notorious for avoiding public appearances, looked completely out of place under the bright lights of the shopping center. "Mr. A. Wolf?" Riley began, her tone suddenly honeyed. "I just stepped away for 1 minute to confirm the Taylor appointment." "And 23 minutes," he interrupted, his voice cold. "The security feed shows 23 minutes from when you left my daughter alone until this woman found her." His eyes finally shifted to Elena, who was still holding Lily protectively. Something unidentifiable flickered across his expression. "Lily needs her inhaler," Elena said simply, ignoring the building drama. "She's starting to wheeze." The simple statement seemed to jolt Grayson back to the present. He reached into his own pocket and pulled out an inhaler. A father who carried a backup, Elena realized. As he approached, Elena expected him to take Lily from her arms, but instead, he knelt before them both, helping his daughter take 2 careful puffs while she remained in Elena's embrace. "That song," he said finally, his voice so low only Elena could hear it. "Where did you learn that song?" Before she could answer, camera flashes began popping from the growing crowd of onlookers. Grayson's expression hardened instantly as he stood once again the untouchable businessman. "Riley, you're dismissed permanently. I'll have security escort you out." Turning to Elena, he said formally, "Thank you for assisting my daughter. If you would please bring her to my car. My driver is waiting outside the east entrance." As Elena carried Lily through the shopping center, the little girl's arms still locked around her neck. She could feel hundreds of curious eyes on them. Lily whispered against her ear, "Do you have to go away now?" Elena swallowed the sudden lump in her throat. "Yes, sweetheart. Your daddy will take good care of you, but he doesn't sing," Lily whispered back, her small fingers curling into Elena's blouse. "And he doesn't know how to hug." Right. Outside, rain still fell steadily as a luxury black car waited under the covered entrance. Grayson held the door open, his face once again an unreadable mask. As Elena gently transferred Lily to the plush leather interior, the little girl's hand caught her sleeve. "Will I see you again?" Elena smiled gently, pressing back the inexplicable tears threatening to spill. "The next time you come shopping with your daddy, maybe you can wave to me at the front desk." She stepped back, professional once more as Grayson. Wolf gave her a curt nod before sliding into the car beside his daughter. Just before the door closed, Elena saw Lily place her small hand against the window in a silent goodbye. The next morning, Elena arrived at work to find a small package, waiting at her reception desk. Inside was an elegant silver bracelet with a single charm, a tiny umbrella, and a note that simply read, "Thank you for sheltering her from the storm." No signature, no explanation. Carl approached, coffee in hand. "Quite a scene yesterday." Elena tucked the bracelet into her drawer. "I was just doing what anyone would do." The old security guard's weathered face crinkled with knowing. "No, Elena, that's what you always tell yourself, but it's not what anyone would do. Most people would have called security and kept their distance." He paused. "That's why Riley is furious with you, by the way." Elena looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "She's been calling management all morning, demanding you be fired for overstepping boundaries with a VIP client's child. Claims you prevented her from doing her job and made her look incompetent." A cold weight settled in Elena's stomach. She needed this job. Her modest apartment, her evening classes in child psychology, her carefully built stability, all depended on it. "Don't look so worried," Carl continued. "I've got the security footage that shows exactly how long that child was left alone. Nobody's firing you for being decent." But by afternoon, Elena's supervisor had called her into the office, expression grave. "We've received a concerning complaint about yesterday's incident with the Wolf child." "I understand," Elena said quietly, already reaching for her badge. I'll clean out my desk. Her supervisor blinked in surprise. Clean out your no, Elena. I'm not firing you. I need you to explain exactly what happened from your perspective. Mr. Wolf himself has requested the information. That evening, as Elena, I walked through the rain toward her bus stop, shoulders hunched against both the weather and the weight of uncertainty. A black car pulled alongside her. The window lowered to reveal Grayson Wolf. Ms. Morgan, he said formally, may I offer you a ride? Hesitantly, Elena slid into the luxurious interior, immediately noticing Lily wasn't present. They rode in silence for several blocks before Grayson finally spoke. That lullaby you sang to my daughter, he said, eyes fixed on the rain-slick streets ahead. It was my wife's song for her. Elena's breath caught. I'm sorry I didn't know. How could you? He interrupted, his voice tight with controlled emotion. Catherine created it herself the night Lily was born, as she sang it every night until his words trailed off. Until she couldn't anymore, Elena finished softly. Grayson's hands tightened on the leather portfolio in his lap. Catherine died from complications after Lily's birth, a rare infection. By the time the symptoms were clear, it was too late. He paused. Lily was just 3 months old. I'm so sorry, Elena whispered. Where did you learn that song, Miss Morgan? The question came sharp, almost accusatory. Elena looked down at her hands. I didn't learn it anywhere, Mr. Wolf. I made it up, or at least I thought I did. It's similar to one a foster mother sang to me when I was very young, before she became too ill to keep me. The car slowed to a stop, though they were nowhere near Elena's apartment building. Rain drummed against the roof as Grayson finally turned to face her. I've spent 4 years trying to be both mother and father to Lily and failing at both, he said quietly. I've hired the best nannies, enrolled her in the best preschools, provided everything money can buy, but not what she needs most, Elena said gently. Something like pain flickered across his face. Yesterday was the first time I've seen my daughter truly relaxed in someone's arms since Catherine died. The first time she didn't look lonely. He opened the portfolio and removed several documents. I'm establishing a foundation in Catherine's name, a healing center for children who've experienced loss. I'd like to offer you a position as our emotional wellness coordinator. Elena stared at him in disbelief. Mr. Wolf, I don't have these qualifications. For you have exactly the qualifications I'm looking for, he interrupted. You see children really see them? You notice what they need when no one else does. He hesitated, and Lily asked for you 3 times today. The car had resumed moving, turning, down streets that had become familiar. As they pulled up to her apartment building, Elena realized she hadn't given the driver her address. Seeing her confusion, Grayson said simply, I had my security team run a background check. Standard procedure for anyone who interacts with Lily. Of course he had. This was a man who controlled every variable, who left nothing to chance, a man whose grief had calcified into rigid protocols and emotional distance, but also a man who recognized what his daughter needed, even when it wasn't something he could provide himself. I'll need time to think about it, Elena said finally. Grayson nodded, handing her a business card with his private number. Take the weekend, but know that the position remains open regardless of your decision. He paused. And Lily would like you to. Why don't you join us for pizza on Saturday night if you're around? Lily swears you promised to show her how to fold paper boats for puddles. Elena's lips curved despite herself. That's true. I did promise, didn't I? 3. Months later, the Catherine Wolf Center for Children's Healing welcomed its first families. News outlets covered the story widely, not just because of its unique focus on helping kids navigate grief and trauma, but also because of the unlikely partnership behind it. A billionaire innovator known for his intellect and a quiet receptionist, remembered for her compassion. On the wall of the main activity room hung a single framed quote, Not every soul is saved with wealth. Sometimes what they need most is a hug and someone who truly listens. If you walked through those doors in the late afternoons, you might have stumbled upon a rare sight. Grayson Wolfe, tie loosened and jacket tossed aside, crouched on the carpet beside his daughter and Elena, folding paper boats, humming songs, and learning how to hold his little girl in a way that finally felt right. And on certain nights, when Lily had drifted off to sleep on the story couch between them, Elena would sometimes notice Grayson's gaze lingering on her, not with distant politeness, but with something warmer, something unspoken. That chapter was still being written, one gentle moment at a time. But the truth is, none of this began with business plans or public headlines. It started with a shy young woman kneeling to comfort a child on a rainy afternoon, never realizing the child's father was watching, never realizing how many lives would heal in the ripples of that simple act of kindness. As we reach the end of this story, I want to leave you with this. Kindness is never wasted. Even when we feel invisible, even when the world seems not to notice, the smallest gesture can break through the heaviest walls around a wounded heart. So let me ask, what small kindness could you offer today, one that might change someone's tomorrow? If this story touched you, let it serve as a reminder. Share it with others. Let it spark conversations. Let it help you see the humanity in strangers. Sometimes, the most precious gift we can give isn't our money or advice. It's our presence, our listening, our care. And if you'd like to be part of a circle that believes in stories of healing, compassion, and human connection, subscribe and join us. Not just for more stories, but to help spread the belief that quiet acts of love can transform lives. Until we meet again, keep an eye out for the Elenas and Lilies in your own world. They're closer than you realize,